Behind that unmoving face, I can tell you exactly what I was thinking the night Lt. Calver came for me. I was thinking, he is going to pull the record, he is not going to understand what he finds, and I am not going to be able to explain it to him. I had thought about that night for 7 years. I had rehearsed it in the small hours when the corridor was quiet and the archive door stood solid at my back, and I had never found a version that ended cleanly. There was no clean version. There was only the truth, and the truth was sealed, and the seal was not mine to break. That is where we should start, the post. The antechamber of the Keldrath household archive sits at the end of the inner east corridor on the 3rd floor of the old wing. A narrow room, 10 feet wide, flagstone floor, a single lamp bracket on the north wall, and a door at the far end that has not been opened in the time I have stood there. My post is a chair width of flagstone in front of that door, and I have occupied it in rotation with no one for 7 years, 3 months, and 11 days. There is no rotation. There has only ever been me. When I first drew the assignment, I went to Sergeant Voss and asked him what the post was for. He said it was for standing, corporal, and that I should do so. I went to the duty officer at the time, a Lt. Farrell, who has since transferred to the Northern Regiment, and he told me the orders were sealed above his authority and that I should stand my watch and not inquire further. I went once to Colonel Alding's clerk and asked whether there was an end date. The clerk checked something I was not permitted to see and told me the assignment was open-ended. That was the first month. After that, I stopped asking. I learned the post, the quality of the silence on the 3rd floor at 2 in the morning, the lamp's low hiss when a draft came in from the corridor window, the weight of the bearskin at the end of a long winter watch. I learned to stand it. 7 years is a long time to stand something you do not understand. What kept me there was not complicated. The orders came from the right place in the chain, they were lawfully given, and someone had decided the door at my back needed a man in front of it. A soldier does not require a full brief to stand a post. He requires orders and a reason to trust them. He arrived at 2:10 in the morning on the 14th of February, a date I will not forget, carrying a clipboard and the expression of a man who had found something on a roster that did not belong. He was new to Keldrath, transferred from the southern garrison 3 weeks prior, conducting a routine audit of overnight post assignments as part of his first duty officer rotation. He was thorough. The men in the billet said so with something close to respect, even when they said it with exasperation. He came around the corner of the east corridor, saw me, stopped and looked at his clipboard. Then he looked at me again. "Corporal," he said. "Sir." "What post is this?" "Archive antechamber, sir. Inner east corridor, 3rd floor." He looked at the clipboard. He looked at the door behind me. He looked at the lamp, which was doing its low hiss in the draft, and then he looked back at his clipboard with the focus of a man who suspects an arithmetic error and is determined to find it. "I don't have this post on my roster," he said. "No, sir." "You're not on my overnight assignment sheet at all, Corporal." "No, sir. My assignment is held at a level above the duty officer roster. It would not appear on the sheet you have." He absorbed this. I watched him decide whether to take it at face value and move on or pull at the thread. He was thorough. He pulled the thread. "What level is it held at?" "I was told it was above your authority to review, sir." That was the wording given to me by Lt. Farrell when I inquired in the first month of the assignment. "Lt. Farrell left this regiment 5 years ago." "Yes, sir." "And in the 5 years since, no duty officer has queried this post." There was a pause in which I considered the most accurate answer. 2 have noted it and moved on, sir. 1 asked me to summarize the situation, which I did, and he made a note and did not pursue it. You are the first to pursue it. Calver lowered his clipboard slowly. He was not angry, that is the thing I want to be clear about. He was not the sort of man who became angry at a corporal standing a quiet post in the middle of the night. He was the sort of man who became methodical, and methodical, in my experience, is a great deal harder to navigate than angry. I'm going to need the sealed order number, he said. I'm going to pull the file. I understand, sir. The number is KFR 7 Arch 003. I have had it memorized since the first week. He wrote it down. He looked at me with an expression I could not quite name. It was not suspicion, exactly, and it was not pity. It was closer to the look a man gives something that has been in a particular place for so long that moving it would feel like removing a load-bearing stone. He did not say anything else for a moment. Then, how long have you been on this post, Corporal? 7 years, 3 months, and 11 days, sir. Another silence. Continuously. In rotation with no other man, sir. The post has not been left unoccupied during my tenure. He wrote that down too. Then he nodded once, told me to remain at my post, and went back down the corridor toward the duty officer station. I listened to his footsteps fade, and I turned back to face the door, and I stood there in the hiss of the lamp and thought, here we are then. I was not afraid. A man who has done nothing wrong and stands where he is supposed to stand has only to wait for an inquiry to run its course. What I felt was closer to tiredness. Not the tiredness of a long watch, but the tiredness of knowing that something sealed for a long time is about to be opened, and that the opening will cost something, and that I will not be the one who pays it. Calver was gone for 40 minutes. When he came back, Colonel Aldane was with him. That told me everything I needed to know about what was in the file. Colonel Reese Aldane is not a man who comes to the third-floor archive antechamber at 3 in the morning for administrative reasons. He came around the corner in his greatcoat with his collar up against the cold, very still, very level, nothing given away. He stopped a few feet in front of me and looked at me the way you look at something you want to make sure you are seeing clearly before you speak about it. Corporal Hayne, he said. Sir. Lt. Calver has pulled file KFR 7 Arch 003. Yes, sir, I told him the number. Did you tell him what the file contained? No, sir, I don't know what the file contains. I was given the post and the sealed order number. I was not given the contents. Aldane looked at Calver, and something passed between them, an adjustment, a recalibration. Calver had the expression of a man who had expected to find an administrative irregularity and had found something else entirely. The file is classified at regimental level, Aldane said. Lt. Calver pulled it with appropriate authority, so there is no breach. But I am going to tell you what is in it, Corporal, because after 7 years you have earned that, and because Lt. Calver's audit is going to require an annotation, and I want you to hear it from me before it goes on paper. I said nothing. That is what you do when a colonel is about to tell you something. You stand still and you listen. 7 years and 4 months ago, Aldane said, the Keldrath Regimental Archive was used as the repository for a body of sworn testimony given under oath by 41 members of this regiment, including 3 officers who are now deceased. The testimony concerned a matter of internal conduct. The details are still sealed and will remain so, but I will tell you that it was serious, and that it was resolved, and that the resolution depended entirely on that testimony remaining intact and unaltered until the statutory period for challenge had expired. The statutory period expired 14 months ago. He paused, the lamp hissed. The sealed order you were given 7 years ago, he continued, was issued by my predecessor, Colonel Marin Voss, 4 days before his death. It assigned one man to stand that post until the statutory period expired or until the archive was formally decommissioned, whichever came first. It named you by number, not by name, a quirk of the way Voss wrote orders. You were the man whose number came up. No one in the regiment below my rank knew what you were guarding, including you. I let that sit for a moment. 41 men, 3 dead officers, a statutory period, 7 years of a sealed door at my back. Sir, I said, is the archive secure? Aldane looked at me for a long moment. Yes, Corporal, it is. Then I would ask, sir, that the record reflect that the post was held without interruption. It will, he said. That is precisely what L.T. Calver's annotation will say. Calver, who had been standing slightly behind the colonel, spoke then for the first time. He was a thorough man, and thorough men wait until they have something precise to say. "Corporal," he said, "when were you last rotated off this post for leave?" "I took 7 days in the spring of my 3rd year, sir. I arranged coverage at my own expense. I asked Corporal Taine to hold the post in my absence, which he agreed to do on the understanding that I would not explain why. I returned 2 days early." Calver wrote that down slowly, in the way of a man who is going to have to explain something in a report and wants the facts right the first time. "The post is to be formally closed," Alden said. "The statutory period has expired. The archive is being transferred to the Central Records Repository at the end of this month, at which point the antechamber will be repurposed. You will be reassigned to your standard rotation as of this morning's first watch. The record will show 7 years, 3 months, and 11 days of uninterrupted post-duty, sealed assignment, no irregularities." He paused again, and then he did something I had not seen him do before in all the years I had served under him. He reached into the breast of his greatcoat and produced a piece of paper, folded, official weight, the kind of paper the regiment uses for formal correspondence, and he held it out to me. I took it. It was a citation. My name was on it, my full name, which very little official correspondence uses, and below my name was a block of text I read twice before I understood it. A commendation for sustained duty under sealed orders, signed by Colonel Alden and countersigned by the Constable of the Guard. Below the countersignature was a single line in a different hand, older ink, slightly faded. The signature of Colonel Marin Voss, dated 7 years and 4 months ago, written 4 days before his death. He had signed it in advance. He had known, or hoped, that the post would be held, and he had signed the commendation before he died and left it in the file, to be given to whoever had stood there when the period expired. I folded the paper along its original crease and put it inside my tunic, against my chest. I did not say anything for a moment. There was nothing to say that the paper had not already said better. "Sir," I said at last, "permission to stand the post until first light." Alden considered this. Then he said, "Granted. Corporal Taine will relieve you at 0600. He gave me one last look, the steady, measuring kind, and then he and Calver walked back down the corridor. I listened until their footsteps were gone. Then I turned and faced the door. The lamp hissed. The draft moved in the corridor. The flagstones were cold under my boots, the way they had been every winter for 7 years. I stood there until the gray light came in under the far window at the end of the corridor, and I thought about Colonel Voss, who had written a man's name in an order and left a commendation in a sealed file, and trusted that the man whose number came up would simply stand there and do it. No explanation, no context, only a post and a door, and the understanding that a soldier does not require a full brief. He requires orders and a reason to trust them. At 0600, Corporal Taine came around the corner in his full dress and stopped when he saw me and did not say a word. He had the look of a man who had been briefed on more than he expected. He came and stood beside me, and we stood there together for a moment, the two of us, in front of a door that would never need guarding again. Then he said, "I'll take it from here, Edric." I turned over the post, walked down the corridor, and went to breakfast. That is the whole of it. There is no great drama in the telling, and I understand that. What Colonel Voss knew, I think, and what I have come to understand in the years since, is that the drama was never in the telling. It was in the standing. It is always in the standing. The moment that matters is not the moment the record is opened. It is every moment before it, when no one is watching, when there is no reason visible, and a man stays at his post because it is where he is supposed to be. That is the job. That has always been the job. You stand until you are told to stop, and you do not require an audience to do it with honor.